At Thanksgiving dinner, my half-brother didn't see me walk in. He was whispering to my dad on speakerphone. At Thanksgiving dinner, my half-brother didn't see me walk in. He was whispering to my dad on speakerphone. Yeah, I already tampered with her car's safety system. See you at her memorial tomorrow. I didn't scream. I quietly walked out, called a tow truck, and had the car delivered straight to my dad's house. A gift from your son. 5 minutes later, my name is Christina Morgan. That Thanksgiving night in Minnesota, the cold bit hard as I carried the tray of leftovers back into the lake house earlier than anyone expected. The place was mostly dark, just a faint light leaking from the basement workshop. I started down the stairs to let them know I was home but froze halfway. Brandon, my half-brother, same dad, different mom, was on the phone speaker on talking to our father, William Morgan. His voice was flat, almost casual. Yeah, I already tampered with her car's safety system. See you at her memorial tomorrow. The tray almost slipped from my fingers. I grabbed the railing to steady myself, heart slamming against my ribs. Dad didn't shout. He didn't stop him. He just asked softly, "You sure?" Brandon replied, "It's done." My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and hit record, but I only caught the end. Dad's question and Brandon's answer. I snapped a couple of quick photos of the dim basement, but the images were blurry from trembling. I didn't go down. I turned, walked back up as quietly as possible, and slipped out the front door. Outside, I called for a tow. My voice cracked, giving the safety concern reason, and I had to repeat the address twice. I told them to take my SUV straight to William Morgan's house, the family home, and to deliver one message: it was a gift from his son. If you've ever overheard something that changed everything in a split second, something that made you move fast just to protect yourself, tell me about it in the comments. I read them all. And if you want to know what happened 5 minutes later, subscribe now so you don't miss the next part. I drove around the lake roads for what felt like hours, the dark water glinting under the scattered streetlights, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. I couldn't go back to the house, not yet, maybe not ever. My heart hadn't stopped racing since that moment on the stairs, and every time I closed my eyes, I heard Brandon's cold words echoing again. The recording was too short. Just Dad's quiet. "You sure?" And Brandon's flat. "It's done." No full confession, no clear plan laid out. The photos were useless, blurry shadows of tools on the workbench, nothing that proved anything. I kept replaying it in my head, wondering if I'd imagined the worst parts. But no, the tone was unmistakable. It all went back years to when Grandpa passed. He'd left the lake house and a trust fund split evenly between his 2 grandchildren, me and Brandon, even though we shared only Dad and nothing else. Mom had raised me alone after the divorce. Brandon grew up with his own mother, but Dad always tried to bridge the gap, maybe too hard. The inheritance was supposed to be fair, a way to keep us connected. But Brandon saw it differently. He'd started gambling in college, small, at first sports bets, online poker. By his late 20s, it was bad. Creditors calling loans from shady places with interest that snowballed. He'd come to me more than once asking to borrow against my share of the trust. I said no every time. The house was the one place I felt safe, the one thing Mom had helped Grandpa maintain before she got sick. Dad knew about the debts. He'd bailed Brandon out a few times, dipping into his retirement savings. But when Brandon pushed for me to sign over my portion, claiming it was family helping family, Dad sided with him. I remembered the meeting at the family lawyer's office 2 years ago. Brandon laid out papers saying if I relinquished my claim, he'd pay me back eventually. Dad sat there nodding along, saying it would keep peace, that Brandon needed a fresh start more than I did. I refused, walked out, and things got tense after that. Cold shoulders at holidays, subtle digs about how I was selfish for holding on to what was rightfully for the family. There were messages from Brandon after that. Nothing overt at first, just hints like, "You might regret being so stubborn," or "Things happen when people don't cooperate." I screenshot them, showed a friend once, but dismissed it as bluffing. Dad defended him, saying Brandon was stressed, that I was overreacting. Now sitting in my car with the engine running for heat, it all clicked. This wasn't bluffing anymore. I pulled over on a quiet pull-off overlooking the frozen lake edge. My phone buzzed missed calls from the house line, probably Dad wondering where I'd gone with the leftovers. I ignored them. I dialed Patricia Lowe, the lawyer I'd consulted quietly after that office meeting. She'd handled part of Grandpa's estate and knew the trust details. It was late, but she picked up on the third ring voice alert despite the hour. "Christina, everything okay?" I sent her the short audio file and the blurry photos while explaining in a rush what I'd overheard. My words tumbled out, voice shaking. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a pause. "This is serious. The recording captures implication, but it's fragmented. The photos don't show much. We have circumstance, not direct proof yet. Can we go to the police now?" "We can report it, yes. They'll take a statement, but without physical evidence on the vehicle, it might not lead to immediate action. Tampering cases need confirmation lab analysis of brake lines or whatever he did." I told her about the tow truck already en route to Dad's house, no to the family home where they both were. She exhaled slowly. Smart move documenting the timeline, but risky. Sending the car there could provoke them. "That's what I'm hoping," I said, surprising myself with how steady it came out. "If they panic, they might slip up. Say something, try to fix it, and get caught." "It's a gamble," she warned, "but with the tow receipt time-stamped and your report filed tonight, it builds a chain. I'll draft a statement for you to submit anonymously if needed, but better in person tomorrow." We talked logistics, where to stay safe, how to forward everything to authorities without alerting the house. She advised parking somewhere public with cameras, like a 24-hour diner lot, until morning. I hung up, checked the tow app. Truck was halfway there. I turned back onto the loop road, keeping distance but close enough to see taillights if needed. Doubt crept in. What if they convinced the driver it was a mistake? What if Dad talked his way out, said I was unstable from stress? The lake wind howled outside, branches scraping like fingers on glass. I thought about driving straight to a police station, but without the car inspected, it was my word against theirs. And in a small lakeside community like this, Dad had friends, old neighbors, people who'd known him forever. No, the car was key. Let them face it, arriving like that with the message. Let them sweat, wondering how much I knew. I found a well-lit gas station on the outskirts, parked under the floodlights, reclined the seat just enough to rest but not sleep. Phone on silent, but I watched the toe tracking dot inch closer. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The family I'd tried to hold together was shattered tonight, and I was the one picking up the pieces to protect myself. The tow truck's engine rumbled up the driveway just past midnight headlights, cutting through the thick Minnesota dark. The driver hopped out, clipboard in hand, and knocked firmly on the front door of the lake house. Dad opened it after a moment, rubbing sleep from his eyes in an old flannel shirt. Brandon appeared behind him seconds later, pulling on a hoodie, both pretending they'd been woken up. The driver glanced at his paperwork. "Got a delivery for William Morgan. Silver SUV. Lady on the phone said to tell you it's a gift from your son." Dad's face went blank for a beat. Then color drained from it as he stepped outside and saw my vehicle on the flatbed. Brandon froze in the doorway, eyes wide, mouth opening, but no words coming out. "Is this some kind of joke?" Dad asked, the driver voice cracking a little. "Who arranged this?" The guy shrugged. "All I know is what she told me to say. Paid extra for the late-night haul, too. Sign here and I'll unload it." Brandon pushed past Dad, peering at the truck like he couldn't believe it. "Wait, that's Christina's car. What the hell is going on?" They pressed the driver for more details, who called exact words anything, but he had nothing else, just doing his job. He lowered the ramp, rolled my SUV off, parked it right in the driveway under the porch light. Dad signed with a shaky hand, mumbling thanks. The truck pulled away, taillights fading down the road. Barely 5 minutes passed, tires still warm from the haul, when blue and red lights flashed at the end of the drive. 2 patrol cars rolled up quietly, no sirens but doors opening fast. An officer approached the porch, flashlight beam steady. "William Morgan." Dad nodded slowly, confusion turning to something else. "Yeah, that's me. What's this about?" "We received a report of possible vehicle tampering with intent to cause harm. The vehicle in question was just towed here. Mind if we take a look?" Brandon stepped forward too quick. "Tampering? That's crazy. Who reported that?" The officer ignored him, eyes on Dad. "Sir, we need to inspect the SUV now. Step back, please." They had the tow receipt I'd forwarded through the app, plus the partial recording and photos I'd emailed to the non-emergency line right after hanging up with Patricia. It was enough for probable cause in a case like this. Safety system sabotage is no small thing in Minnesota, especially with implied threat. Dad tried to play it cool. "Look, there must be a misunderstanding. My daughter." "Officer," Brandon interrupted, voice higher than usual. "This is family stuff. She's been upset about inheritance issues, probably overreacting." The second officer was already popping the hood with gloved hands, shining a light underneath. He traced lines, carefully muttering to his partner about fresh marks, unusual wear patterns that didn't match normal use. "Not conclusive yet," he said, "but definite signs of deliberate interference. Clean cuts, tool marks. We'll need to impound for full lab work at the county garage." Dad's shoulders slumped. "Impound? You can't just take her car." "It's evidence now, sir. We'll need statements from both of you." They asked basic questions right there on the porch where everyone had been that evening who had access to the vehicle. Any disputes lately? Dad stuck to vague answers about family tensions over Grandpa's estate. Brandon denied everything, saying he'd been upstairs watching football. But their voices shook. Dad kept glancing at the SUV like it was a bomb. Brandon paced, hands in pockets, avoiding eye contact with the officers. My phone started buzzing non-stop from the house number, then Brandon's cell. I let it ring, screen lighting up the gas station dash where I'd parked. No way I was answering. The officers radioed for a flatbed from their department, sealed the scene with tape around my car. Neighbors' lights flicked on up the road, curtains twitching. One cop pulled Dad aside. "Mr. Morgan, the report included an audio clip. Your voice is on it, confirming something. Care to explain?" Dad stammered. "I don't know what you're talking about. Must be edited or something." Brandon butted in again. "This is harassment. We want a lawyer." "You're not under arrest yet," the officer said calmly. "But the vehicle stays with us. Don't leave the area without notifying us." They wrapped up after photographing everything, loading my SUV onto their tow for the official impound lot. Dad and Brandon stood in the cold driveway watching it go, faces pale under the porch light. I sat in my rental spot, breath fogging the windows, wondering how loud the silence in that house felt right now. My phone woke me with a barrage of notifications before dawn, the screen glowing in the dim hotel room. I hadn't slept much anyway, tossing under thin sheets, replaying the night's chaos. First was a Facebook alert. Dad had posted a long update on the neighborhood group photo of the empty driveway where my SUV used to sit, caption reading, "Rough night in our family. Christina stormed out mid-dinner over old inheritance arguments. Now she's making wild accusations against her brother and me. Pray for us as we navigate this. The lake house has seen better days." Brandon chimed in below with his own thread screenshots of past texts, where I'd pushed back on his money requests, painting me as greedy, unstable. "She's always held the trust fund over our heads. Last night she flipped, called cops on a false tampering claim. Family first, right?" The posts spread like frost on the lake. Comments poured in from locals, folks who'd waved at barbecues, shared dock space in summer. "Praying for you, Bill Ifwa," from old Mr. Jenkins next door. "Kids these days," from the hardware store owner. "Sounds like she's cracking under pressure, fool," from someone I'd lent a canoe to once. By coffee time, texts hit from high school friends. Saw the post. Everything okay? A cousin messaged, heard you're fighting over Grandpa's stuff again. Call me? I stared at the screen, stomach twisting. These weren't strangers. They were people who'd known me forever. Worse came from work. My manager at the bank emailed, Christina, we need you in HR this morning. Rumors circulating about a family incident, paid suspension pending review, no reflection on performance, just optics. Optics. The word burned. I'd busted my ass for that teller position handling loans, building trust with customers. Now one viral sob story and I was sidelined. I dragged myself to the small town branch 15 minutes from the hotel. The receptionist avoided my eyes. HR lady Ms. Hargrove met me in a stuffy office smelling of stale donuts. Explain, she said flatly, printouts of the posts on her desk. I gave the bare version, no details on the tampering, just family dispute escalated. She nodded, scribbling. Company policy on public scandals. Suspension with pay 3 days minimum. We clear your name if it blows over. 3 days. Unpaid if they dug deeper. I nodded numbly, walked out past whispering co-workers. Jenna from loans glanced away. Tom from mortgages gave a pitying look. Back at the hotel, exhaustion hit like a wave, but sleep wouldn't come. Head pounded from stress, eyes gritty. I paced the carpet, checking updates. Posts had over 100 reaction shares, rippling to adjacent lake communities. That's when I texted Riley Grant, my coworker who'd covered shifts for me last month. Need a huge favor. Can you check security footage at Lakeside Hardware? Brandon was there last week. Riley called back fast. On it, but why this about those family posts? I hedged. Yeah, suspect he bought something sketchy. She didn't pry, just said she'd try. Lakeside Hardware was the go-to spot, tools, plumbing supplies 5 miles from the house. Brandon haunted it for projects that never happened. Riley messaged later that afternoon. Owner's a grump, but I sweet-talked him. He pulled tapes from 3 days ago. Brandon bought a hydraulic line cutter and brake fluid flush kit. Paid cash, no receipt saved. I'll email the clip. The grainy video showed him at the counter haggling price down, stuffing items in a bag. Timestamp matched the days he'd been lurking around my car. Not proof alone, but damning with the rest. I forwarded it to Patricia immediately. This strengthens the chain, she replied. Police will want it for the impound analysis. But the toll kept mounting. Another text from a neighbor. Police lights last night. Hope you're safe. Not concern gossip. My old college roommate unfollowed on socials. Even the bank teller who'd processed my mortgage looked shifty when I grabbed cash for the hotel. Isolation clawed in. The room felt smaller, walls pressing. I ordered room service bland eggs I barely touched, staring out at gray lake waves. How had one night flipped my world? Dad tried calling again. Voicemail pleading, Chris, come home. This is all a mistake. Talk to us. Delete. Brandon's, you're ruining everything. Call off the cops. Ignore. Riley checked in. Footage secure. Owner won't delete it if cops ask. Gratitude swelled, but fear lingered. What if the lab report cleared them? What if locals cited fully, painting me as the villain? By evening, HR extended suspension, pending investigation. Whispers at work had reached corporate. Customers I'd helped might pull accounts. I curled up, lights off, listening to wind rattle windows. Tomorrow meant facing the station for a formal statement. But tonight, the backlash stung. Deepest trust eroded, reputation scarred in a place where word traveled faster than light. No tears came. Just resolve hardening. They'd started this war. I was fighting to survive it. The lab report landed in my inbox that morning. County forensics had torn apart the SUV's undercarriage. Brake lines showed precise incisions from a specialized cutter, fluid residue, mismatched factory specs, no road wear or corrosion. Deliberate tampering, clear as day, with timestamps aligning to the night before Thanksgiving. I forwarded it straight to Patricia, hands steady for the first time in days. Detectives followed up fast, knocking on neighbors' doors along the lakeshore. Mrs. Larson from 2 houses down remembered clanging tools around 10 p.m. Thought it was Dad fixing his truck again. Old Mr. Jenkins heard raised voices, something about making sure she doesn't drive away. Statements piled up, painting a picture no one could ignore. The preliminary hearing got set for the county courthouse in Walker, 10 miles inland, a squat brick building with wooden benches smelling of polish and coffee. I arrived early, dressed plain in jeans and a sweater, Patricia at my side. The room buzzed with locals who'd seen the posts, whispering as I sat in the back row. Prosecutor Elena Vasquez called the case first. She was sharp, mid-40s, no-nonsense ponytail, laying out the chain. My initial report, partial audio, where Dad questioned certainty and brother confirmed action, tow receipt, time-stamped minutes later, initial patrol inspection, noting anomalies, now full lab confirmation of intentional hydraulic sabotage designed to fail under braking. Dad took the stand for the defense, looking every bit the worn retiree in his 61 years. His lawyer, a local guy named Hargrove, unrelated to HR, coached him to play sympathetic. Christina's been resentful since the trust fund split. He said, voice cracking just right. Grandpa left the lake house and $200,000 each to me and my son Brandon, but she's fought every distribution. Thanksgiving got heated over money again. She left angry, made this up to hurt us. The gallery murmured agreement. A woman from church nodded. Someone coughed skepticism my way. Brother followed, 32 and disheveled, clean-shaven but eyes darting. He stuck to victim script. I've struggled with debts, sure, but never threatened anyone. Those texts were frustration, not threats. The basement talk, joking around with Dad about scaring her into signing papers. Nothing serious. Vasquez cross-examined coolly. She played the audio snippet. Dad's soft, "You sure? Hanging heavy, brother's flat, it's done." Then Riley's hardware footage rolled on the courtroom screen, him buying the exact cutter model matching lab marks, cash transaction 3 nights prior. Brother shifted, jaw tightening. "That's for my boat project. Common tool around here." And the brake flush kit," Vasquez pressed. "Unusual combo for marine work." He shrugged too fast. "Coincidence?" The Judge Harlan, a grizzled type with half-moon glasses, leaned forward. "Mr. Pierce, the report notes cuts at precise pressure points fail on highway speeds. Care to explain access to her vehicle?" Brother's face reddened. "It was a joke. Dad and I talk tough sometimes. I didn't cut anything, I swear." "Wait. No one saw me near the lines under the chassis, right? How would anyone know that detail unless—" He clamped his mouth shut, but damage stuck. The gallery gasped softly. Vasquez's eyes gleamed. That chassis mentioned lab specifics not public yet, slipped out like a confession. Dad stared at the floor, hands clasped, white-knuckled. Harlan scribbled notes, silencing objections from Hargrove. "Probable cause established. Tampering with intent to endanger carries felony weight under state code. Bail denied, flight risk given debts and family ties. Remand defendant pending trial." Brother exploded from the stand. "This is bullshit. She's framing me over money." Bailiffs grabbed him, cuffs clicking as he thrashed. "Christina, you bitch, wait till I get out." Dad buried his face, mumbling to his lawyer. Locals shifted uncomfortably. The churchwoman looked away. I sat frozen, chest tight, watching them haul him out. Victory tasted bitter, my own father choosing him over me again. Patricia squeezed my arm. "It's progress. They can't touch you now." Outside, rain slicked the steps. Reporters from the local paper snapped photos. I ducked into Patricia's car. "Next steps?" I asked. "Full discovery. Their side pushes plea, but with that slip, leverage is ours." Brother's outburst replayed in my head, the raw hate in his voice. No more bluffing. The courtroom echo faded as we drove back toward the lake, wipers slapping steady. But peace felt distant. Whispers would linger. Scars from the fight ran deep. The holding cell door slammed shut behind Brandon that afternoon. County jail in Walker wasn't large, just rows of gray bars and echoing footsteps, but it swallowed him whole. Felony vehicle tampering with intent to endanger